What is good? Welcome to the Partially Cultured Podcast. Once again, my name is Aaron. I'm your host, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts Isaac and Alan.
How's it going, guys?
How's it going?
And just wanted to make sure that you guys remember to check out our website, partiallycultured.com. Leave us any comments or suggestions you want. All our social media links are at the bottom of that page. Hit all the likes and the follows and the subscribes and all that shit. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to see videos of this. We try to post every Sunday. We've been had some stuff going on in our lives where we had some shakeups. We haven't had a schedule, but we're going to get back on it, try to release every Sunday for you guys. So without further ado, today's topic, we're going to talk about social media. So this is kind of a big topic. I don't know that we can condense it, but we're going to try. Let's start off. Let's talk about, the origins of social media. And I'm assuming a lot of people that are going to hear this or watch this have heard of it, but haven't ever experienced or, actually engaged in the origins of social media, which would have been like, your bulletin board systems back in, I guess that would have been the late 80s?
Yeah, well, even before that, the 60s
mid
and 70s,
80s.
you had chat rooms, those text-based chat rooms where you had to enter in through your Apple IIe's and all that other stuff. But
I would say, it's been around for a long, long time. I would even say back in the 40s and 50s, I'm sure the military had some kind of a chat messaging system. But I'm talking about to the masses. I would say it really got introduced, when people started getting their 56K modems and started dialing up the chat boards.
What was your earliest experience with social media?
After Al Gore created the internet?
My earliest experience was I was probably 10 years old, and I had an old IBM clone, the 2 diskette floppy, not the hard disk, but the old 5 1/4.
5 1/4, yeah.
Yeah, obviously no hard drive, 640K, killing it. But I had, I want to say it was a 36K modem or 33.3. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, back with the old rotary dial phones. I had that hooked up as a kid, and I used to access, the bulletin boards things I knew existed. Like, here where we live, there's the CAT radio station. They were one of the first bulletin boards in Oklahoma City. And so, that was my first experience with actually going online. Probably about the same time War Games came out, and made it kind of popular.
Makes sense.
So did you go on there and just chat with people on there about?
I never even chatted with anybody. I just go on there. I just thought it was cool. Like, oh my man, I'm looking at stuff, on a computer, dialing in and doing War Game stuff. I'm gonna do global thermonuclear war with, the CAT radio station. But there were some other little ones that you find, on boards posted, other numbers you could dial and get like, you could do like the games, tic-tac-toe and stuff like that. And back in that day, with my sweet RGB monitor, King's Quest is what ruled my life. I played King's Quest for hours, but that's beside the point. That's not social media, but King's Quest was the shit back in my day.
Alan, what do you think? What was your earliest experience?
For me, the earliest I could think of is like getting a 56K modem back when, it used to tie up the phone line, so you had to get permission to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first thing that I could really think of that I would consider social media that I used was probably something like Mi Gente, or like Black Planet. So those use old school websites where you'd sign up and you'd interact with other people. It was kind of like almost like you have your own little space or page and profile, but it was essentially like web pages. Like you have your own little web page on this one big gigantic page, and you could sort of chat people. What most people would do is get like their AIM handle, and then you could take that AIM and go into AIM and talk to them offline, or like and then from there started using IRC when I was like probably 11 to 13 because I thought it was cool to. I think I saw the movie Hackers and I was like, oh man, I want to be a script kiddie, right? Like started trolling IRC channels and stuff, trying to figure out how to do computer stuff and pirate whatnot, you know what I mean? And then from there, probably MySpace. So like, yeah, I mean it was like what it's become is so drastically different than what it started as. But like if you think about it, even from way back when, like it feels like we've always tried to use the internet as some kind of way to interact with each other.
Yeah, I mean, the internet was made for that purpose, really. I mean, well, outside of the military use, I guess, but it's communication, right? So it's natural for us as social creatures to go out there and try to communicate. I think my earliest thing was kind of the same thing along the same lines as you, Alan, where I had like AOL Instant Messenger, which brought the ability to go into like a bunch of different chat rooms and stuff and go in there. You had to watch out for the Pedro bears, but other than that, like you had like you could use like Netscape Messenger and Trillian and some of those other applications to kind of spruce up your system, make them look cool with your chat emojis and all that stuff. It became like a big thing for us, at least with our friends and stuff. But I guess that's probably my experience, my earliest experience with social media. A lot of people went on the forums and stuff. I didn't really do that. Wasn't really my thing, but occasionally I would go onto like Apple forums or something like that and discuss the new
forums
and stuff. Yeah,
forums actually really good. I used to be on so many forums, and that's essentially kind of the same type of deal. Yeah. So yeah,
I spent a lot of time, later on. I mean, when AOL came out, I spent a lot of time in the AOL gaming chat rooms where, they would drop, I don't know, a 20-part RAR file for like the original GTA or something.
Mm-hmm.
I never downloaded anything.
No, of course you wouldn't.
But,
of course not. No,
but it's just amazing that that's how it was back then, for people that were pirating games and stuff. It was little bitty pieces. You had to have 20 of these pieces. Then you had to go.
You still do that.
You had to go zip
using that.
Oh my god!
Your zip archives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was.
So I mean, we were kind of there at the beginning of what you would call social media, as far as like it reaching out to the masses. Like after that, it evolved, like Alan said, to like MySpace and Facebook. Which when I was using it, I started back in 2004 on Facebook, I think. So not the earliest adopter, but like one of the early adopters of that.
I think, I mean, we all agree that there's other things that were before it, but I think AOL is probably the catalyst. I think more people got that. I mean, they shipped out so many of those fucking free CDs that everybody and their mom was on AOL at one time, using these chat rooms. And, AOL, you had a place where they gave you your own little amount of space where you could build your own little AOL website.
Yeah.
So I remember that's when I learned HTML.
I remember making one.
Yeah, that's how I learned HTML, playing with that AOL website.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember what was it, GeoCities? Making
GeoCities.
I remember making like a website, like how kids used to do like mixtapes for girls. I had like a website that I made with like a bunch of little songs in it.
Oh snap! Like you're the intelligent Mac.
Yeah.
Like I ain't got no mixtape, baby, but hit this URL.
I was like, hit this link real quick. Like the mixtape right on there. Bunch of little MIDI files.
Oh my god. 8-bit MIDI files. Oh my goodness, that's bringing back some nostalgia.
I guess everything kind of exploded with MySpace and Facebook, though. Really, I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like MySpace was the first one that resembled anything close to what Facebook is.
Mhm.
Well, I think we had to before it, but like not a lot of people knew about that kind of stuff. So like MySpace is probably like the major one that everyone kind of remembers. That really, really kind of looks what most people think of as social media, and that's a whole other conversation because there's a whole bunch of discussion of what counts as social media. So
I saw a funny meme on TikTok the other day, and y'all remember the guy that was your friend on MySpace when you first
Tom.
signed up, Tom.
Yeah.
There was a TikTok meme when it just his picture and
I
it
think I've
said
seen
something like, "What the hell, man? Can't we just get Tom back? All Tom wanted to do was be your friend. He didn't want to know any of your personal information. Didn't want to sell you anything. Wasn't trying to censor anything from you or hide anything. Tom just wanted to be your friend."
yeah,
and
and Tom sold it MySpace for like what 500 million or some nonsense or something around.
Tom
and just
split
disappeared.
and went and bought
You
an
never heard from him
island.
again. Yeah, he just goes, takes pictures, and fucking has good food and travels.
Tom,
Like,
But you know
said,
what?
"Fuck
All
it,
the
good for him."
information, all those accounts that we had on MySpace are still, are
Yeah.
now integrated into whoever bought it. So our
Question
information
is
did get used. It's just
Is
we don't know what
MySpace
happened.
still a thing?
It
mean,
was.
can you still go
Yes.
there?
It was a couple years ago.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Oh my god!
I think like
Pretty sure it
it's
is. Yeah,
some like
it bounced around a bunch of people.
Some conglomerate
I think
bought
Justin
it, I think,
Timberlake
like-
owned it at one point.
who did?
Justin Timberlake, I think,
Oh,
owned
really?
it at one point.
What? Who
I
owns
think
it
like
now?
I think like Pepsi Cola or something like that owns it now. But
I don't know, AOL bought it at first or something like that, right? Or like Yahoo or something, and then it bounced around to a bunch of people. But
Yahoo was probably dumb enough to buy it at some point.
It's
There's
owned
just
by
a bunch of stupid stuff.
It's owned by Time Inc.
Time
And,
Warner
and,
or
and Justin Timberlake jointly purchased the company.
So
okay, yeah.
they got plenty of information from us on there too. I mean,
I think that was probably a shitty investment there, Justin.
it was
I
a
don't
bit.
know.
Unless you sell
What
that
is-
info. Unless you
What
sell
is
that
he?
info.
What is he? What info? Ain't nobody putting shit on there anymore.
Yeah, but you had your name, your address, your phone number, all that stuff that you put
Well,
in.
yeah,
there.
I mean, back then, who else? Who listening to this? Leave it in the comments. Had a MySpace, and any of that fucking information is still the same.
Not for me.
So I
That's
mean,
there for sure.
it was useful
Anymore,
then.
that's not useful, but yeah.
But I think that's what I'm saying. When Timberlake bought it, I think he made a bad choice.
The thing that killed MySpace, I think, was that it was not as user friendly as Facebook was. If you remember in
I
MySpace,
think-
you had to like mess with your HTML settings and stuff to make the background
Yeah.
and change colors and all this other stuff. There's a lot of people that are just like, I don't want to do that shit.
I mean,
Well, also Facebook used to be like cool. Like Facebook was exclusive. Like you had to like get invited into Facebook when it first came out. So it was like
You had to have
you
a
got invited
college
to Facebook
email
and you had
address or something.
college email address, and only certain colleges had it at first. They were like slowly rolling it out to certain colleges. So like like it was like the cool thing. It was like, oh man, there's no old folks on here. There's no little kids on
Yeah.
here. Just like 20 somethings that are making plans to go drink and take pictures of cool shit. Like it was kind of cool. It was exclusive. They like, and then it turned
now it
into
is a shit heap.
it's Boomerville. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem with a lot of these things. Is like generationally, we have a very different expectation as to what to expect from media. So like I feel like older folks grew up with like the news and it being something you could rely on, and if they posted things that weren't facts, like if they posted things that weren't facts, like they'd have to retract it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And like they'd have to like, because they cared about their reputation and there was journalistic integrity and blah 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 blah. So like when you take people like that their entire life they're groomed to think and believe that type of way, and you throw them into something like Facebook where you can just spout
Just
bullshit.
what the fuck ever.
yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's a recipe for disaster. Meanwhile, you take a bunch of kids like us who like grew up just not believing shit because we grew up on the internet, so we knew that half the shit was fake. Files you downloaded would constantly be the wrong thing and be viruses half the time. Like shit you read on the internet would be bullshit half the time. You read a game FAQ and follow it and then find out it was a troll. Like like we were groomed the exact opposite. It was like, don't trust shit.
Very pessimistic.
Double think. Yeah, double
Don't
think
download that
everything.
file,
Question
don't do
everything.
This, don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So I feel like that's one of the things that kind of made Facebook.
I think you're right on that because I mean that's why I killed my Facebook. I had it for a long time, and then I started getting to the point where I had like 100 friends, on there. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, I want that celebrity and blah blah blah. 50,000 friends. I had like 100 people that I actually knew in real life, and then it got down to the point where I had blocked, I don't know, 85 of them, from posting or from seeing their posts.
Yeah.
I'm still their friends, but it was just because it was like that kind of shit. And it wasn't just the boomers. I mean, it was some people that are like in their late 20s that were like, did you guys see this? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? That is horse shit. That's not true. Yeah. And then, they don't ever come back and say anything about it. I'm just like, come on. I mean, and it was just arguing and bickering and timelines. I'm like, arguing on the internet, you just go bang your head into the wall and get more out of it. So I was like, I'm out.
Well, the thing that's trippy about it is like you have all these people that have the mentality of how they act on the rest of the internet. Where like you can go on the rest of the internet and you're anonymous and you can just be an asshole and be a troll. But then you take that same mentality to Facebook where it's like people or that like should know you, and you act that way because you're used to acting that way in other places, and you're like, holy shit, like this guy's a horrible person, right? Like,
Yeah,
like what the fuck?
It's
like
nuts.
You're not anonymous on here, buddy.
I mean, the shit you see on the internet anywhere would get your ass beat, in real life. I mean, that's why that's one of the dangers, I think. I mean, I'm all for free speech. I mean, you can't pick and choose your free speech. I as much as some of the shit I don't agree with some people, you can't pick and choose. But that's the dangerous part about it, I think, is you can just say what the fuck ever and there's no repercussions. That's dangerous because you're going to go out there. I mean, if you're doing that all day, every day, just on the internet, you're going to go out in real life and think that's normal. I mean,
yeah. And then the thing is, you combine that with the fact that these companies started as like tech kids that like wanted to do some cool shit and make this thing to like interact with your friends. And then it turns into like, oh, now it's a company. Now we need to make money. Oh, now we need to make it hyper addictive. Let's hire psychologists and like have them figure out how to tickle your, fucking amygdala or whatever the fuck it is, and figure out what it is that
your adrenal
makes you
tickle your adrenal gland.
Yeah, like make you like this shit even more or whatever. Like make you need it, right? Like now you're addicted to it because you need this like little serotonin hit. Like and start tracking what you use and how you use it and how long and modify it and perfect it.
Well, AT&T can tell you that there's a lot of money in that information, and the longer you use it, the more information they can collect, the more information they can sell. So, yeah,
where you've been, what
it's a
you
free
purchased.
application, but they make their money. They found a way.
Someone said, I heard the saying was like, whenever you see a free application on the internet or like a free program website on the internet, you are the product.
Yep. That's a fact.
It's like, it's like they have shit down so hard that like supposedly they have like fingerprints on how you use even like just the browser. So like depending on how many times you open tabs and close tabs and where your mouse moves and when you're on pages and which websites you frequent and how frequently you use them and what time of the day you use them, like collecting all that information and like how fast you scroll, how fast you maybe look through the screen or whatever, like they can get all that info and compound it together and be like, oh, this is Alan. Like even though I'm on a completely different Chrome on a completely different computer, after a certain amount of time of me using it, they can see that the behavior correlates with me as a user, and like they have a digital fingerprint. That's why you'll be doing some shit sometimes, and you'll be like, "How the fuck did they hear that? Or where the fuck did I start getting these ads from?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, they have access to everything: your email, your like browsing habits, like how much you move your mouse, like. Yeah,
and how they'll
it's
sell
a
it to you is
digital
like,
fingerprint.
well, we're just customizing your experience to better fit you, you know, and it's,
Send us data so we can make it better. So we can
and
find crashes.
yeah, and then you wonder why
fix
Chrome is
bugs.
using like 40 gigs of like RAM and stuff. When
Right. No
like
shit.
I've got 2 tabs open. Why do you have 40 gigs running through here? But
Yeah,
yeah. So I guess
super.
there's definitely some. I mean, so it changed from something that was like a social, platform for, just people getting like. Well, for me, for like Facebook and stuff was actually for me to find people that I went to college with or just high school with.
Yeah, that was the original draw, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that was-
let me see if I can
Yeah.
find somebody I went to elementary school with.
Exactly.
Old
I
friends
actually did
linked
find a
back up
couple in
again.
there, and it was kind of neat for a little bit, but then people started changing. Like the
I
people
was
were
like,
not
you
the
realize,
same anymore.
you realize there's a reason you haven't talked to them in 20 years.
Well, I mean, maybe they were the same people in person, but when they're online, like you guys said,
right?
they are not the same person anymore. They post stuff that's just annoying, or like one of my friends, he just constantly updating every single thing about his life, and I'm like, I don't really care about what you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like that's I don't care.
I was kind of bad
Well,
about
my
that.
thing
I
was
used to post a lot of food pics, but I make fire
No,
food.
food's
I mean,
okay, but I don't need to know every single meal. Like they did, it's not like they were making these meals. It's like having
that's out at a
McDonald's
restaurant. Yeah. Oh,
out
yeah.
at Panera with
taking
these
taking a
people.
shit because I did go to Panera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then you see it like what it's become now with like Instagram and shit, and it's like and now TikTok, and it's like, damn man, like where is this? What exactly is this? Like now it's like you have influencers who supposedly have such big followings and they can manipulate entire
They're-
like companies.
It's not
and stuff.
hidden.
And you have
They
Twitter.
call them influencers. I
Yeah.
mean, they might as well
Yeah.
call them propagandists because that's what they do. I
That's
mean,
fact. I mean, that's another problem I see with it. I mean, I see it in my own kids. I have a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old, and the like my youngest. The other day she's like, "Dad, I want to. When you make the order from the store, can you get
Mr. Beast.
no
Burgers or something like that.
sherbet and fruit roll-ups?" Because I want to put sherbet in a fruit roll-up and freeze it in the freezer and try it. I'm like, you didn't come up with that. Is that a TikTok? Yeah, so-and-so did it and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, what? Does this fucking person have, stock in sherbet and fruit roll-ups?
probably.
Oh,
It's,
they're getting paid to buy them.
I think the big problem is that it sets unreal standards.
Yeah.
I think the unreal standards, are the problem. That's more in your Instagram type space, because you see these dudes flexing with a lot of money and gold chains and all this stuff, or you see women that are 80,
Constantly
80
on traveling.
85 pounds and triple D's, and I'm all natural. Like, no, you ain't. And I mean, I feel bad for like teenage girls, because I mean, they're impressionable and they're seeing this stuff and they think that's the norm, right? I mean, they're living in this Instagram world, and I'm like, guys,
Teenage boys too,
Yeah,
man.
boys and
yeah,
girls,
exactly,
really,
yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, I say girls because both of my kids are girls, so
Right.
I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
because
Hits closer to home.
I'm like, that shit ain't real. I'm like, watch this, and I'll load them up in the truck, and we'll go sit in the Walmart parking lot. Show me the Instagram model. And it's Big Mama in her half shirt, with muffin top rolls and flip flops and cutoffs. I'm like, she don't look like that on Instagram.
With the Snapchat filter, even I can do that. You know what I mean? So
I don't know if they've got a
Well, the thing
Snapchat
that's really-
filter that good.
No,
but
okay. I don't know
you
either.
could look
but-
better.
I'd be surprised.
Reasonable.
What's really insidious about it is that they don't they don't always have to, like, on YouTube you have to like say if it's like a promoted thing, or if it's, if it's someone that's paying you
Right.
for it. But I'm not sure if that's the case for everything or for every website. It's damn hard to even enforce that, right? So like a lot of times you have these people that are probably getting paid on the back end and then doing things or influencing these kids or people that are following them just like strictly off of like monetary gain for themselves. It's like you have this huge web of like people that are just hawking you shit and giving you advertisements that are like disguised as content. It's like an advertisement disguised as content delivered to you by people that you trust because you've been following them and watching them and you think that they're your friends or something. It's like people are forgetting what it is to have real relationships and real friendships.
Yep.
And they're like and because we're social creatures, we're naturally designed to just make those connections in our head. So when we don't have it in real life, we start imposing those things and like throwing them those feelings onto these digital relationships
The thing you talking
that
about,
aren't real relationships.
yeah, and the thing you talk
I mean?
about them, disguising products as content. There are a ton of videos out there now that it's all about affiliate links.
Mhm.
It's all about that
Yeah.
Amazon affiliate link. I was watching a cooking something, some cooking thing the other day. It's like, oh, and if you want this knife I'm using, click on the Amazon link and blah blah blah. I go there and it's like obviously the affiliate link.
Right.
I don't mind that so much if they tell me, like, hey,
If they're
you click
transparent.
on this, I get a little kick. So if you appreciate
Helps me
what
out.
I'm doing, hook a brother up. I don't mind that. Just be open about it. Don't be like, if you want this knife, you click on the Amazon link. Like it's not
Or,
your affiliate
or-
link.
Well, when I used to make like
when
HTML
it's, like,
pages, that's how you
super
got money,
shady.
was to get those little affiliate links on your page. And depending on how many counters and how many people you had on there and clicking and stuff, you get a little 0.01 cents or whatever
Yep.
off of every click.
Yeah.
But sorry, Alan. No,
But it's
true.
no, that's fine, man. Don't worry. So my whole thing is like, it's worse when it's because that's normal, right? Like they're trying to make money, they're trying to make an income, but it's like it's worse when they get to the point where like they realize that that's how it works, and you start noticing that they're just making the content to feature the products or the affiliate
Right.
links. So it's one thing if you're making a cooking show and your whole thing's cooking and you're showing shit that you actually have in your kitchen and you're using it and you love it and that's why it's in the video. It's a whole different thing when it's like you start making shit simply to push the links.
The number
You know what
one
I'm
thing
saying?
that
Or
pisses
push-
me off on YouTube now are these 3-minute videos. Because the rules are, I believe, you have to have your video has to be at least 3 minutes before it can be monetized. So you've seen these videos, I'm sure. It's like, this magician, showing his girlfriend a trick, and he'll have like a bottle or something, and he'll spend like 3 minutes, doing different stuff that's not really, anything, just to get to that 3-minute mark to see the big reveal. It's just, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're
If you
talking
haven't,
about. Yeah.
If you haven't, I'll find you guys some and show you. But it's pointless stuff for 3 minutes until you hit that 3-minute mark, and then they have the big reveal, which is nothing spectacular, but they have to hook you for that 3 minutes just to get that video monetized. And it's completely bullshit content.
You saw that on YouTube, or what was that? What
Yeah.
platform?
Yeah, YouTube.
And the thing is, it's like YouTube. That's a perfect transition. So like YouTube, you guys consider that social media? Because
I would.
I historically didn't think of it that way, but it kind of is if you think about what.
I would say it
What would-
is because
what-
you're
It wasn't
sharing-
always that way. But so if you recall, like TV was media, right? TV and cable. And they had commercials, and that was how they got paid to sponsor programs and whatever else that they put on their channels. And when that stuff started sucking, people transitioned over to YouTube and to social media or online media, and that's kind of where everything's gone to. So now that they have commercials and all this other stuff that's taken over in that realm, because nobody's watching TV anymore, or not really, percentage wise. And so like all those things we were talking about, like the influencing, the the commercialization, uh, the trust and all that relationship and all that stuff is all now geared towards YouTube and Facebook and anything that's on there. Well, everything's linked to YouTube, even on all those other platforms. I mean,
Yeah.
just about.
The thing that's really insidious about it is like, or not even super, like that's super shady about it is that shit can be used. Like that data is super powerful, right? Like, and those connections that you build are they can actually influence people. Like they can legitimately make people think and believe things. It's like when you were a kid, especially with kids, but even so with adults. Like if I tell you something is good or something's good, like watch this movie, you're way more likely to watch it if it's from someone you trust, their opinion and their taste, than from some random person. So like you can see that, like look at 2016 with like, and I know you guys don't want to, I mean it's the elephant in the room, but let's talk about the whole Trump thing with Facebook, right, as an example. All right, so people say that the Russians helped or that he was working with Russia. Let's say he wasn't working with Russia, but let's say that the Russians, for whatever reason, felt that he would be a better person in power. There's proof that they used Facebook to try to influence people to vote certain ways, right? That's kind of, undisputable. So like that's crazy, right? Like we have a foreign government that is harnessing some of our technology platforms, weaponizing the fact that we have freedom of press and freedom of free speech against us to spew propaganda and swing an election one way or another. Like that's fucking crazy.
It's actually illegal,
like,
but
and that's
it's hard to, you can't track it because it's happening
yeah.
overseas, or it's happening through VPN connections or whatever.
Well, the thing is like, or even then, like you could have like botnets, right, with a whole bunch of zombie accounts and they have troll farms.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that like you'll see the people commenting like crazy on crap, and it's like super shady comments, or like they start directing the conversation in chats into certain directions. So it's like, or downvoting things on Reddit or upvoting other things, so that you only see certain things pop up when you go down there, when you go up there. It's like the same thing with like all this stuff is manipulable. Like fucking Google searches, people on Reddit troll Google searches all the time. They're like, let's put so and so's picture as the first result, right? Because it's all manipulable, and there's no way to track it, and then there's no one that's really responsible for it. And
yeah, it's
kind of dangerous.
It really is. I mean, that's one example that you had there. I mean, there's millions of examples like that. And not only that, it's the companies themselves deciding what you see and what you don't see. And these ghost bans and shadow bans and all this stuff where, you don't show up in an algorithm for, 60 days, or, you're subscribed.
And you're not even aware of it.
You start losing subscribers and they didn't unsubscribe from you. I mean, that's a tough spot because these are privately owned companies. But
you have to understand there's
serving
manipulation there too.
They're serving the public, so I don't know how you, like I said earlier, you can't pick and choose what free speech is. Either you censor everything or you censor nothing. That's my feelings. I don't think they should have the power to just pick and choose.
My whole thing is it's censoring in the most like ingenious way possible, where it's like, we're not censoring you. We're just making it so no one notices that you're speaking.
Yeah.
And for people that
nobody
go
can
specifically
find you.
to, yeah. So it's like, but then you talk about like that even if you think about it, that increases the power and the danger tenfold, right? Because now you have these privately held companies that have the power to, and they know it, right? Like it's one thing for them to have been tricked into influencing things or making decisions or making things happen in the background, but like now they themselves are actively able to change society, change what's possible, what people think is okay, what people don't think is okay. Like you can, like, the way I like to think of the internet, and this is like the initial stages of a a network, right? Like a human network. Like if you think about like everyone inevitably, let's say, goes into the situation where we're like, there's the what's that thing when humans and machines are one or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's
Semi-human.
um, no, it's like
I know what you mean.
there's like a word
Yeah,
for it.
I can't remember.
It's like, but whatever. So like, let's say 10 years from now, 50 years from now, everyone has one of those fucking little implants in their head where they can control the computer from their hands and all this bullshit. And then you connect that with the fact that now we're always on the internet. Like I feel like we're on a path to humans just being networked. Like right now, we're networked from the computer and from our phone because it's like start a computer now and then went to the phone, and people are like damn near living off their phone. Slowly it's going to move to the virtual reality world. Eventually we're probably going to be having like connected with a chip or some shit. Like the inevitable future of this is that we're going to be connected all the time to everyone, right? Like we already kind of are with the shit just being in our pocket. We're connected to everyone and to everything. Like the whole well of human knowledge rests in like a fucking little device in your pocket. You know what I mean? And like we're not built for that. Like we don't, we're not designed. We haven't evolved to handle that kind of stimuli or have that amount of people like dictate like making like talking about how we look or how we feel or how we're stupid or whatever. Like we're not. I don't. It's like we let the fucking genie out of the bottle without knowing what the fuck we were doing, and now it's spiraling out of control. And our entire political and legal systems they're not designed, even those things are not designed to react fast enough to control technology. Technology iterates and evolves too fast.
I mean, you go to the fucking DMV and they're still using monochrome monitors and freaking dot matrix printers. I mean, come on. I mean, there's no way.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
It's like
they're way behind.
Like realistically with social media specifically, something has to be done, right? Like there has to be some kind of regulations that have to be put in place to control what they're allowed to do, how they're allowed to do it, maybe how they're allowed to target people, what kind of messaging is allowed to be sent, by who the messaging is allowed to be sent to. Maybe
how do you do that?
like,
How do
maybe
you,
this
if
whole
you do that, you have to enforce it by essentially, the federal means, which includes military.
I low key feel like the internet needs to splinter into two different things where it's like one is your online persona is not anonymous. Like one version of the internet is like you're I'm Alan on the internet, right? And you are Aaron on the internet. It's like, and everywhere you go, whenever you check anything and you go into any websites, you identify yourself with your real fucking like digital ID, whatever that is, right? And you can go to the Facebook or the MySpace or whatever the hell it is that is linked to, and that's the only place that lives. And then you have another version that is anonymous and people are being assholes and whatever it may be. It's like I don't see how
You have a non-troll internet.
I don't know
well,
if
it's like
that would.
non-troll. It's just like
I don't know if that would get rid of everything. I mean, that would definitely get rid of some of it, especially the people that
Well,
are
I
more
don't know. I
inclined
mean,
not to.
look at the assholes on Facebook that you actually know.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I'm not worried about those assholes. Like those assholes are being influenced by troll farms and by
I
a
guess
bunch
that's
of bunch of fake accounts. Like the fact that you could have a bunch of computers, you can run a script to just bang out accounts and make a shit ton of accounts and then pretend to be people, get people to follow you, and then just send them shit, right? Like post stupid pictures and Facebook mess and fake news articles and all this other fake bullshit and slowly change someone into someone they're not. Like
yeah, but isn't some of that on the people that are engaged on those things too? Like, shouldn't we be just teaching people, hey, look, you shouldn't be, taking everything in as fact, or you should talk
yeah, there
about
should
this
definitely
stuff.
There should definitely be a high school
There should
course
be.
not called how to not be a dumbass.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Look, we grew up in an age like us. We grew up saying, "Hey, I don't trust anything on the internet." How do these guys who know that there's stuff that's false on the internet? How do these kids that come up now not understand that concept, or how do
I
they
think
understand that concept and still get influenced to that degree?
I think it's the opposite side of the spectrum. We knew that because we were exposed to the news, so we knew that there was such a thing that existed where shit was real and you could trust it. And then we were on this thing that was fake, and we're like, this is fake, this is real. These kids are growing, like they're being born and growing. They're bred into this shit.
That's what I was gonna
Like,
say.
they
don't know.
So they're just
what's
surrounded
fake
by
and
BS.
real.
Yeah.
They don't know how to differentiate it.
Yeah.
That's all they've ever known. That's all they've ever known.
It's
So
like
someone
idiocracy.
does a
Their
shitty
existence.
job of teaching people the difference between fake media and real information. And
well, there's shitty parents out there.
yeah,
It's
A
not even
bunch
that
of
though.
them.
It's also it's worse than that though, because they're like, it's one thing if you teach someone to, be cautious about what they believe and do their own research. But when you do research and the places that you can do research can be manipulated, like look at Wiki's editable. The search results, those are editable. I can make certain websites come up before other websites if I have a big enough troll farm. Like all that shit links to like too much power and influence being given to people that possibly aren't real people.
yeah.
Like,
But when I
when, like-
research something on Wikipedia, I don't believe everything that's on there.
Or
Or
you don't.
I know I'm saying, but I've been taught this, or I've learned
Right.
this, I've experienced this. There's definitely some ownership, like on parents, maybe even schools, that type of thing, to teach this at a degree, at a level.
There has to
How do
be
you-
a place that they can go that is trustworthy,
So
and there isn't a place that's trustworthy.
maybe you make government
Like,
sites
where
like
do you
that.
go?
But how do you regulate private sites like that?
Well, the problem isn't I feel like the problem is that fact is in debate now. Like what people
Right.
consider facts are debated now. We have fucking people saying fake news and shit. You know what I mean? When it's like, like people don't trust scientists about vaccines. Like shit's gone completely fucking
Well,
sideways.
that's because let's not get into the vaccine debate because
Yeah. I know. They did a horrible job and blah, blah, blah.
it's
like-
not that there's zero risk on everything. Okay, so the problem is it's being relayed. Everything's being relayed as if it's fact on every spectrum, on everything, when it shouldn't be relayed like that. It's like, as far as we know, X is what happens. As far as we know, Y is what happens. But they say it as no, X happens. And it's not necessarily that's the case, because once you have something that's not X and Y ends up happening, then you lied. You've lost the trust that you thought you established by bringing up a topic or bringing up a.
I think
There's things that have facts, like 1 + 1 is 2, and then there's things that have opinions, right? Where it's like, I think this and I think that, and then there's shit where the fact, there's only parts of it that are fact and parts of it that are
But
opinion,
you can take
right?
a fact like a statistic and you can present it in a way that sounds like it makes sense a certain way, to one opinion.
You spin it.
You can spin it that
Age of
way,
spin.
or you can take it and spin it the other way. So, because those are still facts, but the way that you present it is going to make the difference. Now, neither one is lying per se.
That's
How do you regulate
problem.
when it's not
And then,
it's not fake technically, but the way that it's being presented has an agenda behind it?
And then how do you not have that politicized or abused?
Well, yeah, exactly.
By whoever's in
I mean,
power.
I'm not saying
I
it
think-
shouldn't be. I'm saying it's going to be very, very impossible, in my opinion, to do that.
I was getting ready to say, y'all just ended the argument right there, to have it not politicized or any money behind it or anything like that. Just fucking forget it. It's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, politics,
The
even if
only
it's
way
not
it would
Republican,
happen-
Democrat, you still have politics in the way you handle things or the way you think about things.
Well, even then, even if you were to make rules in a whole like fucking department of the government that their whole job is to manage this one gigantic website, which is like truth.com, and it gives both opinions on whatever topic, and it gives like links to every single. It's like a universal encyclopedia of it's like Wikipedia, but it's real and it's fucking vetted, and only people that are allowed to touch it are the people that work in the fucking task force. Like, even if you were to have that, right, and it's paid for by the fucking government, like, even then the people behind it are people and they have beliefs. You know what I'm saying?
And
like, how
the
do you
people looking at it still ain't gonna fucking believe it. How many times has the food pyramid changed from the government? I mean, in the 50s, it was like, you should have bacon and eggs. In the 60s, it was like, no, you shouldn't have bacon and eggs, and add all this carbs to it. And then it changed in the 80s, take all these carbs away, and now they've changed it again. I'm just like, you motherfuckers don't know anything better than I know. So, I mean, it's like, I think that's another reason there's so much pessimism.
It's that everybody's in the pocket of everyone else.
Right. Who's paying the most this year? Is it the grain companies? Well, let's get them carbs up there in the fucking food pyramid.
Yeah.
Or is it the cattle farmers? Oh, need more beef in your diet. I mean, it's all bullshit.
It's like the corn guys are mad at the soy guys because the soy guys took over all the,
that in of itself. So like that was weaponized. That whole concept of disinformation was literally weaponized by the Soviet Union and the KGB, and they had disinformation tactics where they would flood the radios and news channels of like whatever they were attacking or whoever they wanted to mess with all kinds of like shit that was true, shit that was fake, shit that was like outlandish, shit that was sounded like it was outlandish but had nuggets of truth in it. Like they had so much information out there that you get paralyzed, because then now you don't know what's real, you don't know what's fake, and then you do that enough, people start doing exactly what happens now, where people just don't trust anything anymore. And then once you get to a point where you don't trust anything anymore, you can start feeding them all kinds of bullshit as truth, right? Which is kind of where we're at now. And like, it's ingenious because I don't really know how you fix that. Like I don't like, think you how can. Do you now? You have to build back trust, but building back trust is not something you can just do overnight. It's not something you can just, and especially when the people that have the power to build the trust, to build the platform that would be necessary to build the trust back reliably, are the exact same group that people lost trust in. Like, realistically, this is something that could only be tackled by a huge entity that is publicly funded and has some kind of like oversight, right? Like, it would have to be like some kind of
company that I just don't want to give any credit to at all. So yeah, it'd be a hard sell for a lot of people too, because the last thing I want is to give the government more money to put into regulation, more laws that they have to follow that they can manipulate at any point in time themselves. Like, whoever's, if it's Biden or if it's
1984,
or if it's Trump, either one of them can set out an executive order and change everything about whatever you're doing. So.
It has to be like something. Well, it has to be like a third part. You know what it would be? But what it would have to be something like an AI, like a completely like remote.
But I mean, it's kind of like
an AI that's off on an island that is like not part of any country and not allowed to be touched by any country, but protected and watched over by every country.
A computer,
like, you know what I mean? They just.
It's like like Enemy of the State.
Yeah, Enemy of the State.
When his wife was like, "Well, who's going to watch? They're going to have a monitor, to watch this. Well, who's going to monitor the monitor? Well, who's going to monitor the monitor's monitor? I mean, it's like the Great Wall of China. That's a great idea, but if you just pay the guy at the gate, that was a waste of time. I mean, it's still human beings. Someone has to program that AI. Someone has to fix that AI. So, I mean, it's a good concept, but I just don't think that's ever going to happen. I think this is our world. I think we're going to live in a world of misinformation, and you've got to just pick through all that shit.
And what's going to happen is the shit that China's doing, where you're going to get a social fucking credit score, and your online identity is going to be tied to your little online identity card.
Black Mirror
shit. They have. Yeah. And that's honestly, as much as I disagree with a lot of shit that China's doing, and I don't like the idea of this fucking social credit score crap. I can kind of see the logic behind why they're doing it when you like, at least for online purposes, because like, how else do you control it? Like, how else besides making sure that everyone that's online is a human? How can you stop troll farms?
I don't think you can, man. The only way that this problem is resolved is to remove all dumbass from the gene pool. And that's impossible because there's always going to be dumbasses. There's always going to be problem makers and troublemakers. There's always going to be gullible people. I mean, I think it's just the way of the world. It's just what it is. You know, you just have to be intelligent enough to figure out what's the bullshit and what's not.
You know what sucks is that
And the problem
the
is
way that YouTube and some of these other platforms now like restrict information. I mean, look, it might be proper to do that for some instances, but people are afraid to even say a word because they think that they're going to
Yeah.
get
They'll get demonetized.
kicked off or whatever. So there's like guys that are talking about history and they can't talk about things in history, even to learn good
And
good lessons
you
from
can't-
bad things, and you can't because
can't-
if you do, you're in trouble. Or
You
get-
can't talk about that one medical issue that's
Right.
you can't say it. You'll get
Happening.
demonetized.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's again, going back to what I said. Okay, these are private companies. I get it. You can make the own decision in your own private company, but what do you do with that? I mean, I guess the only way to fix that is people stop using it. If you don't like it, don't use it. But you know,
You could use another
So-
platform, but the problem is once it gets popular enough, people are going to have the same kind of restrictions on that kind of platform too.
Yeah.
It's just going to continue doing the same thing.
as long as there's money involved, you know, they're-
Oh, and there's
it's
always
gonna
money.
be a problem.
And there's
Always money.
there's got to be money involved.
and they're too big. Like these companies we're talking about, like they like run the world. You know what I mean? Like you think about like Google and Apple and Facebook and Microsoft, like these guys, the information they have and the power and influence they have to just like control everything is kind of nuts. Like they're tied into so many things. Like they can influence and control so many things. Like imagine if they're just like, yeah, fuck it, we're gonna just like disable every iPhone and Android phone. Like we're not gonna support them anymore. Like we're gonna just turn it off, and it's gonna stop working. Like, or we're gonna shut down Gmail. Like we don't want to do Gmail anymore. Like imagine how much of a disturbance that would be. Like if whatever Microsoft was just like, oh, we had a critical update bug, and it's gonna crash every single Windows machine. Like like it's just kind of weird that we let these people have so much power.
I think you hit on it
Like,
actually.
not
There,
even-
it's like if we didn't give them so much power, they wouldn't be able to do this. They wouldn't be able to control us this much. You know what I mean? As a society,
But
we need to stand up
the
as
thing is
as
that
a collective and say, "Hey, look, we're done with this BS." You know what I mean? We're not going to use your platform.
I feel like
we're not going to use this.
the problem is that no one's gonna do that.
Nope.
Because we're
Convenience.
all individuals. Well, it's not even that. It's like I'm just one person, so I'm thinking of it from my perspective. Like this thing is like I'm one person that's involved in this gigantic thing.
What am I going to do?
I'm not gonna have any influence. I'm not gonna have any influence over it. I'm not gonna impact it. I'm not gonna make it's not gonna make a big difference. Like that's where honestly, like shit, like the government probably should step in. Like they're there to spot these kinds of problems and fix these kinds of issues. But like it's so gridlocked that they can't get anything done. Like realistically, like once Facebook started got WhatsApp and Instagram and all this other, it's like whoa, no, you know what I'm saying? Like you too big. Like a lot of these companies are just entirely too big, and they're entirely
Well,
too
yeah. I mean,
powerful.
if you
And
as the
they-
government go in there and say, "Well, YouTube, you can't do this anymore," YouTube's going to say, "Well, we're going to just release all this propagandist type media out there and say, hey, get rid of all these people in Congress so you can change the laws." You know, they'll just find a way to manipulate the masses
Yeah.
their own way. I mean,
Oh yeah.
It's all bullshit.
That's-
It's all money.
I'm
The
telling
problem.
you, they gotta just break up all these companies. Like, they should be like there has to be like a cap. And I know that it like goes completely against like capitalism and everything, but it's like, and then it makes us not being able to compete with places like China, because now they'll have corporations that are going to be significantly larger if they don't have much capital. But like, there has to be a way to minimize the influence
I think there should just be a
these
"don't be a
companies
dick"
have.
law.
That's not
If we
gonna
just had
work.
a
People
"don't
are
be a
dicks,
dick"
man.
law, companies can't be dicks.
All of the behaviors that are necessary to be successful with these corporations is like you have to be a fucking narcissist, like fucking
The people that are most
non-empathetic
successful usually
psycho.
have those tendencies. Yeah.
I need more. I need more. I need to own the world. I need to ship all my American jobs overseas so I can make more.
Money,
Give
money,
me
money, money, money.
more. Yeah, it's a bunch of
Yeah.
horse shit. I hate corporations.
So,
I want more. I need
I
another
don't see
hub. I need
how.
another jet
I
plane.
think part of it's a mindset. Like, people need to detach themselves from it. It's gonna be almost impossible to do. But I think that's what realistically, there's a social contract that happens between members that utilize a platform and you know the platforms
That's the
themselves.
thing, is that when they slowly consume all the big players, and then they're the only big player, and then they buy the internet, the service providers, and they buy news channels and TV channels, and they're now the news channel, and they're now the ones that tell you, they're the ones that deliver it to you, and they decide how it's packaged and how it's delivered, and then they get you addicted to it, so that you literally are checking your phone or not checking your phone every 15 seconds, every 15 minutes, and they can
Well, you can
it's too much power.
control
You have too
your
much power.
usage of the internet, though.
I
Yeah.
can. Yeah,
So
I can.
if
But there's
everybody
some
did
people
that,
that
if
can't.
everybody did that in the world, we'd be a lot better off, I think.
But we can't rely on if with things like social
because
media.
there's dumbasses.
We can't
So
rely
you
if
need the government to go in
we
there
can't
and tell
rely
you how
on.
many minutes you can spend on the phone today.
I'm not saying that the government should tell us how many minutes we're allowed on the phone, but I do think that the government should be able to say, "Hey, Facebook, you're too big. You have too many users. You're going to get broken into 15 different companies, and you're not allowed to have X amount of users, or you're not allowed to have this amount of, you're not allowed to send this kind of information, or share this kind of information, or or have these kind of ads, or
You're talking about
like
the same
get
government that
involved in these types
takes
of
lobby
conversations."
money from those same institutions. They'll never do it. They'll just never do it. What I'm saying is we got to take that
I
out
know.
of that government's hand and get it into the people's hand. The people need to come up with. I mean, there needs to be somebody that stands up, or multiple people have to get up and say, "Hey, look, it's more than just me thinking this. We have to get up
Well,
and do better about this stuff."
I mean, it may happen. I mean, look at what Reddit did to GameStop stock. I mean, it fucked those Wall Street guys pretty good. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I don't know how much, because they're probably still hurting. They're probably still manipulating it in some ways. So.
Well, here's
They
the
went
thing.
on.
It's
They took that to Congress.
It's the big companies. They can manipulate the shit because the big money guys that were losing all the money went to Robinhood, and Robinhood shut down trading on it. Said you can't buy it. So I mean, that's bullshit. You can't do that in a free market system. You can't pick and choose what you can buy and sell and when you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do it across the board. If you do it, you can't pick and choose. And that's why, I mean, it's all horseshit.
The only thing that I could think of as far as regulation, and I don't like the idea, but the only way that I think that it could work is if you made the internet or the things on the internet, like social media, a public forum, and then you applied all the rules that you currently have, to that forum. So, like in public, you can't go out there and just say whatever you want to, because there's repercussions for certain things that you say. You can apply those to the internet as long as you can find out who they are. But like Alan was saying, that if there's bots, what are you gonna do? You can't go after bots, and you can't cut off other countries, because then you turn into China or Russia, where you have state-run media. And can you trust the state to do that? to give you information.
Genie's out of the bottle, man.
So we're coming up on an hour. So social media. Are there good things about social media?
We've
There's
not really
awesome
said
things
much
about
about
social
those
media.
things, but
We haven't. That's why I wanted to bring it up here. There are good things about social media. I mean, for my mom that wants to talk to, her friend in Las Vegas on Facebook or whatever, or, if you want to buy something on Marketplace for cheaper than going to the store. I mean, there's all kinds of good things. If you want to watch TikTok and laugh, whatever. There's a million things, you learn guitar on YouTube videos. Million things that are good about it. So I don't want everybody to think we're just downing social media. I think at the end of the day, social media, just like anything else, has its pros and cons. And you have to sift through the bullshit to find out what's real if you're looking for real. And I think you just have to use common sense and moderate your use of it. That's my opinion.
You know what? Yeah, you know what would actually be kind of fire, now that I think of it? If you had one of these guys that made something akin to like a Facebook clone or a YouTube clone or whatever, right? But it was a subscription model, so you weren't beholden to advertisements. You actually didn't allow any advertisements. And then as the user base grew and the costs for running it lowered, you decrease the subscription cost. So because so it's like the exact opposite of what they do now. Like they spend all this money up front to get the users and build the platform, and then they have to monetize it, they have to make their money, and they make a business, and they start slowly finding out ways to get you hooked. But like, what if I just want to have like a good guy Facebook? Like I'm not worried about making a shit ton of money. I just want to have a place that people can go to just fucking see their friends and like all the shit that was
what about
supposed
a nonprofit organization?
Then, oh no, it's not even nonprofit.
What about a
minimal profit
organization?
Well, you limit your ads and stuff there, but you don't knock out trolls. I mean,
well, I make it so that you can only get on if you identify yourself. You have to provide your ID. Blah blah blah. You have to be a real person. Have to vet it. So everyone on the platform's vetted. Everyone that is proven to be a real person. And then you're tied to your address has to be real. Your phone number has to be real. All that kind of stuff has to be real, right? You have to have a verified email, all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, it's real. It's somebody else's.
Or birth certificate. Oh, that's possibly true. Maybe you have to get on maybe part of it's getting on a Zoom call. I don't know, like with
you're gonna do this with a million people signing up daily when you get so big. Okay, you're number 746,000 in the queue. Please hold.
That's fine. It's exclusive. People want it. It's more popular. Eventually, you'll get in there, and people wait in queues.
We learned something from Facebook. I guess if it's exclusive enough, they'll want to do it.
And people wait in queues. Look at people who go on WoW on day of, and they'll sit there for the entire fucking day when a new patch releases, and they'll complain and pound on the screen, but they'll wait. You eventually get in there, and now you're good. Like everyone's real, right? You're paying, let's say, $1, $5, whatever it is, to keep the servers up and pay the folks that are being paid a decent salary so they can buy houses and survive and be regular, right? And then once we have enough users and we pay off all the cost for the equipment, we take a little bit off the top for making sure we can keep getting new hardware, keep buying hardware necessary for the amount of users we have, and then if we get more users, the more users you get beyond that differentiator where you need to buy hardware and you have to get users and whatnot. Like you start as much as you can, you start trying to knock the subscription cost down so that the barrier to entry is less impactful, so that you can have more people involved in the system. But then the entire purpose is not to make money. Like I don't want to not to make too much profit, right? Like it's just to be a good platform and like for my employees to live comfortable, happy lives.
I mean, it sounds like sounds like unicorns running through the forest. It sounds like a great idea.
I mean, I like the idea. I just
let
don't
me know.
see anybody doing it.
I'll come work there. I want to go play with unicorns.
But I want to raise every year, so better make some money.
Yeah. Cost of living goes up, so you're going to need to make a profit. Anyway,
But
social media has goods, has bads, but as usual, we don't know shit. What do we know? We're just users. So, final thoughts, Isaac?
Oh, I mean, I still use social media, but I try to minimize my usage of it as much as possible. But it has its values as far as like escaping, as a means of escape, I guess I should say. But we just gotta be careful about what we view, how we view it, and maybe I don't know. Maybe somebody will come up with a good idea in the future.
Alan?
social media is something that no matter what you do or how you try to slice it, like we're going to always have a form of, because we're social creatures and we're going to constantly try to be striving to connect with other people. And in a digital world, that's how we're going to be interacting with people, is digitally. So it's going to exist in some way or fashion. It's entirely too powerful. The corporations that are in control of it are entirely too large, and they have entirely too much power, money, and influence. And if we don't find some kind of way to regulate it, it will be the downfall of civilization, and everyone will be fucked.
Wow, that's pretty ominous.
Yeah, it is, and it's the truth. And the fact that it's completely driven by greed and like self fucking serving idiots is like part is the predominant problem, right? Like it's like this type of system should be run by someone that has the exact opposite mindset, because of the fact that it's so powerful. Like with great power comes great responsibility. You know, I'm fucking saying like that, like you hear that shit when you're a little kid and you watch Spider-Man, and then you're an old ass guy and you have the most powerful platform in the world, and you're using it and you can topple governments. Like the shit's no joke, and it's out of control, and I don't know how you fix it, but something needs to be done about it. And they're really sinister. They're using a whole bunch of tactics to like manipulate people's brains. They've had all those like news articles about Facebook knowing that it like affects, like Instagram affects young children and makes them want to kill themselves, and like fucks with their self-image and body self-image and all this stuff, and they don't care. And that's the type of shit that I'm talking about. Like it's way too powerful and way too influential, not just on a political spectrum, but even on an individual spectrum. Like it fucks people up, it fucks kids up, it fucks relationships up. Like it is too powerful, and it needs to be regulated in some way.
All right.
So
I think he's trying to say, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Yeah, they're coming for everybody out here. All right, anyway, let's close it down. If you guys have any comments or questions, want to get in a chat with us about this on social media, let us know.
Please make sure you go to all of our social media.
Please go to
YouTube,
all of our social media.
Instagram.
Go to click up on our YouTube video.
Wherever podcasts
Thumbs
are
up.
seen or heard.
Yep.
Comment.
Yep, you'll see us wherever
Comment,
podcasts
please.
are seen or heard. Anyway.
Please comment. I mean, we want to see your comments, please. But
Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. Later.
Later, guys.